Hello and welcome back to Bite Size Boxing. So just going to do a quick disclaimer for each of these post-fight reviews, and I'll just put the same one on each one. I am on the back of about 90 minutes of sleep after this card because it ended so late here. I've just jumped out the shower as well, so if in a few of these videos I do look like a drowned sewer rat, I hope you can understand. And if I seem a little bit less with it and a bit more rambly than normal, that'll be why. Thank you very much, guys. Take it easy. Enjoy the video. The co-main, Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda, and I was actually quite proud of my prediction for this one. I pretty much nailed this. So Stevenson, as expected, was forced to fight in a lot more of an entertaining way than we're used to seeing because of the style of William Zepeda, that crazy output that I had outlaid in my pre-fight prediction. All come to pass. He had crazy output. It did force a fight out of Shakur Stevenson. And I have to say, early on, Stevenson, it looked quite worrisome, really, for Stevenson. I'd say those first 4 rounds was the most trouble we've ever seen Stevenson in. Zepeda's output in those first 4 was crazy. He was throwing something like 80 punches around or something there or thereabouts. So Stevenson was seriously struggling. He was drowning at points in that first 4 rounds. He was getting hurt. He was getting buzzed. He was getting hit, which is not things that Stevenson is used to having happen to him. On top of that, because of the output, he was being forced to hold his feet, which isn't something that comes naturally to him. He would much rather be on his bike being low output, but against William Zepeda in a small ring, that's not something he had the luxury of doing. So it was one of those that if the pattern of the fight of the first 4 rounds had extrapolated out to the full 12, not only would Zepeda have won those 12 rounds, he would have, I think, knocked out and stopped Stevenson probably in the mid to late end, because Stevenson was flagging in that first 4. That being said, as good a gas tank as Zepeda had, he started flagging, and sort of as you came into sort of the middle, sort of 5th, 6th round, you could tell that his output had dropped substantially. He was sort of resorting to single shots because it was the combinations that Shakur Stevenson was struggling with. You see, when he entered the pocket, because what Zepeda was doing brilliantly, he was jab his way in, and then he would start letting combinations go, hit body to head, particularly to the body, and he was having great success with those combinations. The issue that happened as the fight sort of drew on, is Zepeda was only able to resort to single shots. He was getting a lot more tired, and those combinations to the body, to the head, back to the body that was having so much success, these were now single shots to the body, single shots to the head, and Shakur Stevenson was able to read those, and because he was able to gauge the first line of attack, what was happening is with the first phase of attack previously, he could dodge it, but then because there was combinations coming afterwards, he'd get hit. Because there's only single shots coming, Shakur Stevenson was able to evade that initial attack, and then because nothing was following up, he wasn't getting hit. So that was really the passage of play throughout through the middle rounds, and Stevenson really sort of took a foothold in this. One thing that Stevenson did do, which was quite impressive, was that he held his feet quite early on, partially because I think he realised he had to do, he couldn't just run, but secondly, I think he would have gassed out if he hadn't. If he had done his normal routine of running around the ring, especially with the output he was being forced to give, he would have gassed out and he probably would have got stopped. Because Zepeda, if they're both doing the same thing, probably has the better output in terms of gas tank. So Shakur Stevenson, as I say, he got through those middle rounds. He did quite well. He was hanging in there and he did very well. I'd say he sort of come back on stronger, and he looked the stronger of the two going to the back half of the fight. But then Zepeda sort of started to come into it a little bit more. It was one of those ones where Zepeda went up a gear, but Stevenson kind of went up 2 gears. And that kind of sort of maintained right the way through until the end of the fight, really. So you had, I would say the first 4 you would quite clearly give to Zepeda. Then sort of the middle rounds you would probably quite clearly give to Stevenson. And then the back end of the fight was Stevenson just a nudge ahead. So on the balance of play, Stevenson won this fight, which is what I predicted coming into it. That being said, the scorecards were again horrendous, which I think is a bad look. Obviously, we know what happened in the main event, but 3 of these 4 fights went to points, and in all 3 of the fights that went to points, there was very dubious decisions. It was one of those where, although Stevenson won it, there was one judge that gave it 11-1, which is just scandalous. That's one of the worst cards. I don't think I've seen a worse card in many a year, actually. That is absolutely scandalous. To say that Zepeda only won 1 round in this fight is just a fugazi. It's a lie. It's complete BS. And so it's another one of those ones you just have to sigh. It appears that even if Zepeda had outboxed, if he'd outworked Stevenson throughout this fight, he was never going to get a decision anyway. Boxing, eh? But there we go. What did you think of this fight? I thought it was quite entertaining. I thought it's the best we've seen Stevenson look, in fairness. And again, just as I predicted, that was eked out of him by William Zepeda. But again, if Stevenson can kind of do more performances like this, where he actually is standing more in the pocket and trading, because he has the ability to do it, I will watch Stevenson. I found that an entertaining fight, and I was thoroughly enjoyed it. So hopefully we see more of that from Stevenson. He marches on. Where does Zepeda go from here? You let me know. Thank you very much.